We are 01 USA, an independent wrestling company based in Central Illinois. Would you like to consider supporting our training school by purchasing a $5 tier on our Patreon and receive full access of videotapings of our weekly Thursday night show in Edgewood, Illinois, showcasing 01 USA talent and trainees from our own dojo and others who have been working very hard to prove themselves? Shows date back to January 5th, 2023. That's over 100 shows for $5. These athletes are trying to prove they have what it takes to climb the indie rankings. We have talent leveling from vets with over 18 years experience to young wrestlers getting their first matches in front of a crowd. We would love your support and believe if you appreciate independent wrestling at all, you will enjoy our product. You can check them out at patreon.com/01USA. That's patreon.com/ZERO, then the number 1, USA. Check them out today.
This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is the one that everybody wants, me. Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore! Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, hello, whatever time it is with you and wherever you are. Thank you for downloading this SmackDown review as part of the WWE podcast. As always, it's an absolute pleasure to have you listening along once again. Now, before we get started with our SmackDown review, I just wanted to talk really quickly about the highlights from this week's Raw. And honestly, I continue to be a Netflix era fan. Again, some of the production, for example, the drone shots were really fresh and awesome. Really liked it. Then we had Penta making his debut, and as you guys know, I'm strictly a WWE girl, so I hadn't seen any of his work previously in AEW, but I certainly do like the look of him as a character and some serious skills in the ring. I thought it was incredibly sweet that his family were at ringside supporting, and what I assume was his daughter in tears from the beginning to the end of his segment was really wholesome. We got Lyra Valkyria as the new Women's Intercontinental Champion. That left me a bit bummed. I was really hoping for the win for Dakota, but never mind, I guess. The Punk Drew Seth segment was fun, with them all declaring for the Rumble. I'm going to keep my appearance under wraps, personally. Seems we've got a very, I'm declaring my attendance year in the Men's Rumble, yet hardly a peep out of any of the women for theirs. And finally, for me, the street fight between Finn and Priest. I thought this was a really good match, and I'm hopeful now that Damien and Rhea can both finish up their feuds that they've got with Judgment Day and move on. So without further ado, let's get to our main event, which is reviewing SmackDown that aired on Netflix in the UK on Friday the 17th of January from San Diego in California. Now, the first thing that I should say about this week's episode is that previously we didn't get many adverts. This week again, we didn't seem to get any adverts on Netflix. Every so often, though, we just got a holding screen with a bunch of superstars appeared on it in like basically promo shots with a little countdown timer that you can fast forward. So I guess they're now the equivalent of our ads. Anyway, the show starts this week with Joe and Wade doing their intro whilst walking through the crowd and telling us all the cool things that have happened in the arena where they are for tonight's show, which was a nice, interesting way to start off. And then we get to the traditional shots of the arrivals of the people competing in tonight's matches. So we've got Bayley and Tiffany arriving for their match later. And then we've also got Jimmy Uso and Carmella Hayes for their match as well. So to start off the show properly, we get the hometown Hall of Famer Rey Mysterio coming to the ring. Not currently dressed to compete by the looks of things. Ray welcomes everyone to SmackDown, and he says it feels great to be back home with his city and his family, who it looks like some of them are at ringside as well. He says he asked to come out tonight as he can't think of a better place as he declares himself for the 25 Rumble. So another one. He says in 2006, He entered at number 2 and he won the Rumble, went on to main event Mania 22, where he won the title. He does say that he's realistic, and with the likes of Drew, Punk, Seth, Roman and Cena, he knows it's going to be tough. But he tells us that he won in 2006, and when he did it for a friend, and we all know who that is, and the crowd chant for Eddie. And then we get KO's music hits, and he's still carrying around the Wing Eagle belt. He says he's genuinely sorry for interrupting Ray, but he had to come out because he'd heard him say that he was declaring himself for the Royal Rumble. KO says he respects Ray more than anyone else on the roster, and he says that he's accomplished many things too, like the tag titles and fighting Stone Cold at Mania. He says he stands there as the true and rightful WWE champion, and he says there's still one thing he needs to do in his career, and that's have a match with Rey Mysterio. So that's why he will be rooting for Ray to win the Rumble so he can face him for the title, which obviously we know technically he doesn't hold. Ray says that he loves competition and challenges, but KO isn't the champion, Cody is. And he says that if he does win the Rumble and KO beats Cody, he will more than happily face KO. At that moment, KO obviously has a bit of a hissy fit and starts shouting, saying he is the champ and Cody has brainwashed everybody. KO goes to take out Ray with the belt, but Ray, being a wise old wily veteran, is well onto that, dodges out the way, and KO ends up hightailing it out of the ring. So this was a very strong opening segment. Loving KO's new t-shirt. It said something like Canadian Dream, son of a software engineer, or something like that. So a bit of a direct Mickey take on Cody, I guess. So I'm thinking that we're probably going to get a KO versus Ray match tonight, possibly as the main event. Let's see. Still really enjoying this angle with KO going absolutely round the bend and just getting up into everyone's business and really acting like the champ, which is quite hilarious. So now we're straight backstage where we've got Bianca and Naomi. Naomi says there still isn't any lead on what happened to Jade. Bianca checks that after last week's hair whipping incident that they're all good. Naomi tells her to wrap her hair up this week so it doesn't happen again. And they're going to be fighting Nia and Candice in a match happening right now. Before we go to the match though, we get Ray backstage with Nick Aldis, or Oblivion the Gladiator as we still know him. And as suspected, Nick is making the match for KO and Ray later on. Cody emerges from somewhere behind them and said that he was in with medical, that's why he couldn't make it to the ring to be there for Ray. But that he is now cleared. Nick says that he has an addendum to the ladder match contract, and Cody says he will sign it once KO does. Now, we haven't been told yet, but I'm guessing it's something to prohibit illegal moves. As Nick referenced, it was to prevent what happened at Saturday night's main event. So now we're going straight out to the ring. We've got Nia and Candice already there. Naomi and Bianca make their entrance. Interestingly, they both get their individual theme tunes tonight. And as we kick off, we get Nia taking out Naomi from behind and Candice taking out Bianca. This is kind of pre-bell ring or during the bell ring. And we start properly. We've got Nia and Bianca in the ring. And as soon as Candice gets the tag, we have Bianca taking over with a beautiful delayed suplex, followed up into the corner where Candice gets pretty much pounded. Nia tries to interfere, but ends up squashing Candice into the corner. And at this moment, Bianca is all over the match. Candice manages to get the tag to Nia, and whoopsie-de-doo-doos, we get another display of Nia's glacial ring speed, which I have to say I am so over and I'm so bored right now of watching Nia wrestle. As she throws Bianca from the ring, Naomi finally makes her way back up to the apron, but we get a tag made which brings Candice back in with Bianca, who has a stretch hold applied in the ring. Bianca manages to fight out of it, but Bianca is in trouble and desperately needs a tag to Naomi. Candice attempts a move from the top, but Bianca catches her, tries for a tag. As she almost gets there, Nia pulls Naomi off the ring and smashes her into the barricade. Nia is back in, and Samoan drops Bianca, who then dodges the running move in the corner, taking out LeRae. Finally, Bianca manages to get the tag, and Naomi goes for a quick cover on Jax. She hits the split moonsault, but Candice LeRae breaks up the cover. And then we get Bianca back in as they double team Nia, who manages to fight back, hitting a Samoan drop. And Nia hits a rolling senton on Bianca. And Candice slides in for the cover, but Bianca kicks. Bianca goes for the cover, and Nia in to try and make the save, but Bianca moves out of the way, leaving Candice to get totally squished by her teammate. We get a tag made and Naomi in to hit something, which I'm pretty sure commentary said was called Bubba Bum, but it might be something different. That's what I heard, and that leads to the cover for the win. This was a good match. But I have to say, I'm getting a bit bored of these same women fighting week after week. The roster is a lot bigger than what we are seeing. Plus, there's a chance of NXT call-ups, the transfer window, and of course, some returns. I was watching some old matches, having a look at what Netflix have got on there the other day, and I saw the Iconics win the tag titles. I think it was at a WrestleMania. I just thought, how great were they? I mean, I know that they're now back in Australia. I think one of them's pregnant, one of them's got a baby already. So obviously they're not going to be one of the returns. But I just think that's one of the, big losses from WWE. I thought they were brilliant. But I do think there is more that could be done with this women's tag division, and I really hope that they figure it out. Post-match, of course, we get the news that Bianca and Naomi are headed to NXT, which is in Atlanta, for a title defence. So I might actually watch NXT this week and see what happens with that. I believe it's with Lash Legend and her partner, who we have already seen up on the main roster. So it might be worth watching. So heads up, guys. We now get an interview with Bayley. Byron asks what this match means to her, which is the stupidest question I ever did hear. She says it's in her home state for a championship, so this means everything to her. She says this time last year she had just won the Rumble and went on to win the title from EO. She says she doesn't think that her last title run reflected her best work, and she says it's personal and tonight she really wants to win. Now, I really like that. It was only a little short interview, but I thought it had an element of truth in it, and to have Bayley say that she didn't think the run reflected her best work, I liked it. So I like what they're doing with the Bayley character right now. So we go backstage and we have BFAB consoling Meechin, and they are just about saying that Chelsea only won because of the numbers game, basically. And then we get Q, Secret Service Piper, entering the room, followed by Chelsea, who tells Meechin that she better stand up to congratulate her as the only person to have ever successfully defended the Women's US title. And this is hilarious stuff. BFAB chimes in, saying everyone knows that if it wasn't for her mall cop, which I thought was probably line of the night, the outcome would have been different. BFAB says tonight she will take out Piper, and then Chelsea had better watch her back. We now go to Jimmy Uso, who's on his way to the ring. He says he has something to prove, and he wants to make sure that Mello keeps missing. He gets a good pop, and then we get Carmelo out to not much noise at all that I could hear. Always caveat that. Obviously, it might sound different in the actual arena. He's got the mic in his hands, and he says that Roman's going to the Rumble, Jay's getting a title match, and he says Jimmy is in the shadow of his brother, who himself is in the shadow of Roman. Jay on comms points out that even though Mello says he doesn't miss, according to his record, he has missed quite a lot recently, which is only what we're all thinking. Thanks, Joe. Start off quick, Jimmy catapults him into the ring, and they get the match underway. Jimmy robs Mello's sunglasses, and starts the match with them on, which was quite funny. Jimmy has the early momentum, but Melo slides from the ring to regroup and then gets back into the ring with some offense, which is quickly turned around again by Jimmy, who tries running hip attack, but Melo moves. Jimmy with a suplex onto the apron and a suicide dive out onto Melo. And then Melo into the ring post, who's then rolled back into the ring. Melo hits a springboard clothesline and does some showing off, which he gets proper booed for. And Melo gets the running hip attack on Jimmy to mock him. Crowd chant Melo sucks as he continues to be in charge. And Joe tells us that this is Jimmy's first non-bloodline related match since November 2023, where I think he faced Randy. Jimmy blocks Melo's move on the top, elbowing Melo to the mat. Melo hits a springboard DDT, but Jimmy kicks out of the cover. Double clothesline takes both men out, and they go for a weird double pin, apparently, because of the way they fell. They both kick out anyway, but I wonder what would have happened if the referee's count had gone to 3. Who would have won? Would it have been both of them or neither of them? Anyway, Jimmy hits a big kick. Melo counters into a close cover, but Jimmy kicks again. Jimmy hits a pop-up Samoan drop and gets a really close 2 count. Jimmy up to the top, but Melo hits the first 48 in midair with Jimmy kicking in 2. Melo tries nothing but net, but Jimmy moves, landing a super kick, and then hits a spear and goes up top. But then, as if out of nowhere, Jacob Fatu appears in the ring in front of Jimmy and Tama Tonga from behind, and the beatdown starts as the match ends in a DQ finish. Melo tries to buddy up to Fatu and Tonga and gets himself absolutely poleaxed, which he more than deserved. And then we get Solo's music hit, and he comes out dressed in a snappy suit, and he makes his way to the ring. Before we get to Solo's segment, the match between Melo and Jimmy was fine. I must admit, I didn't see the bloodline interference happening, which I guess was the point. I guess this match ultimately was just a vehicle to get Jimmy in the ring so then the Holeless bloodline could come out and make an impression. If I was Melo, I think I'd probably be a bit pissed. He was looking good in the match, and I do wonder what the plan is for him long term, where he goes. And do creative do long-term planning for every single character? Or do they have just like a pool of characters that they can just pull out for things like this when we need to get from A to B via something else? Anyway, meanwhile, we have Solo in the ring. Joe and Wade remind us that Solo no longer has the Ulufala. And Joe says Solo's presence seemed to have calmed down Fatu and Tonga. Now Solo gets roundly booed, and Fatu grabs the mic and tells everyone to shut up while Solo speaks. That was probably the clearest I've ever heard him speak. However, every time Solo goes to speak or lifts up the mic, he gets full-on Dominic Mysterio treatment, and eventually Solo gives up and leaves the ring, but via the crowd, which is a bit weird, seeing as they were the ones that were booing him. Fatu in the ring, first of all, looks like someone's just nicked his puppy, but then he grabs the mic again and says, so that's what this comes to. He says he's tired of the hate and the disrespect. He doesn't care if they get cheered or booed, but then he says, shut the hell up. He says he isn't crazy. He sees what people are saying, that he didn't get his. I think meaning that he's been kind of overshadowed by Solo and the bloodline. But the crazy thing is that he's just getting started, which is actually quite terrifying, as they do say on comms as well. We then get LA Knight, his music hits, and from behind he attacks Fatu and Tonga. He does manage to get in a bit of offence, but soon enough the numbers game takes effect. But then just as Knight is getting his ass handed to him, Braun Strowman's music hits and he comes back, so he makes a return after being out for a few weeks. This looks quite juicy, and just as him and Jacob Fatu are about to go head-to-head in the ring, Tonga drags Fatu from the ring, and they have a face-off on ramp to ring, and they leave. That's a fun angle. I would like to see Solo disappear for a bit personally, and Fatu come to the front for a bit of singles action. Some really fun building of multiple storylines in this segment, starting with Bloodline Jimmy getting attacked, which leads into Solo doing a runner, and ending with LA Knight and Strowman. So multiple layers of some really good stuff being built up here with multiple story threads that are looking possible. So thumbs up. Now backstage, we have Los Garzas getting a pep talk from Santos for their match tonight. He says no one is handing them respect, they have to take it. And now we're going straight into the match. We've got Motor City Machine Guns versus Los Garzas. And this was meant to set the next challenges for the tag titles currently held by DIY. So I'm thinking that there's going to be a degree of shenanigans from one of the other multiple tag teams involved in this match. As we start this match, we've got Shelley and Angel in the ring, and it's a red hot start with some awesome moves being exchanged. The match going back and forth. We get a tag made, and we get some lovely double team moves from Los Garzas. And now it's Berto who's in with Shelley, who starts to fight back and gets a tag. And as always, again, some top double team moves from Motor City Machine Guns off the tag. And now we're left with Sabin and Berto as the legal competitors. Berto is in a headlock in the middle of the ring, but Sabin ends up getting kicked in the head whilst Berto has him spinning round, which was actually a pretty cool move. Back in the ring with Angel and Sabin, and we've got Los Garzas well in charge as Berto takes over, hitting a suplex, going into a pin with Sabin kicking. Behind the ref's back, we get Angel and Elektra Lopez taking cheap shots, and Berto doing his best to stop the tag as Shelley is desperate to get into the match. We do get a tag for Los Garzas though, as they continue to beat down on Sabin, who is looking pretty out of it. We get Angel with a surfboard type of submission move, and Sabin trying to fight back, but instead a tag to Berto, and a gory special face plants Sabin. We then get a bit of a mishap from Los Garzas. They crash into each other in the corner, allowing Sabin to get the tag, and Shelley is in with Berto, and he is rolling. He tags back to Sabin, and again we've got these really great double team moves. As the Motor City Machine Guns absolutely shred Berto's knee in the corner of the turnbuckle. And we've now got Shelley in with Berto, who goes for a figure four lead lock in tandem with Sabin. Though Berto makes it to the ropes for the break. And then he hits a sit-out power slam on Shelley, who kicks in two. Double team move. I have no idea what it was, but it looked awesome. Leads to a really close pin. And we've got Sabin in as the Motor City Machine Guns clear the ring, and Sabin with a suicide dive taking out Los Garzas. We've now got the Motor City Machine Guns setting up for the Skull and Bones as Pretty Deadly appear to try and help, but their help, in inverted commas, causes the ref to miss a cover, and then it allows the Motor City Machine Guns to this time successfully hit Skull and Crossbones and get the win. Wow, this match was frenetic, really enjoyable. I mean, how could it be anything other than brilliant with these two awesome teams involved? So now it looks like we might get Motor City Machine Guns rematch with DIY for the title, but I suspect we might get Nick having to take some actions to ensure no outside shenanigans from any of the other number of tag teams, maybe a cage match, or how about a lumberjack match? That would be cool. Haven't seen one of them for ages. Can you tell I've been watching some old matches this week? But that would be really cool. Either way, it looks like Motor City Machine Guns are going to get their revenge on DIY at some point in a title match. Now then, we go backstage and we have Nick approaching KO to sign the addendum to the contract, and KO basically says that he won't sign until Cody signs, and also he doesn't trust Nick, so he needs to read it anyway. And we still don't really know what the addendum is. We've now got the match that was set up earlier tonight, which is Piper versus B-Fab. This will be an interesting one. Obviously, Piper has Chelsea with her, and B-Fab comes out all alone. Wade tells us that B-Fab has spent the last 12 months pretty much watching from the sidelines as she's been manager of Street Profits, although she did make a good account of herself in the tournament for the US title, though. So I think this might be a fun, good match. We kick off, and the obviously much smaller and stealthier B-Fab outsmarts Piper and Chelsea first off and manages to pull off some good moves, dropping Piper. B-Fab moves out of the way of Piper's senton and gets a quick cover for a 2 count, actually. B-Fab manages to kick Piper out of the ring. And then she apparently has enough of Chelsea chopping off and takes her out. But this opens the door for Piper to take over with a pop-up driver and a very quick victory. After the match, Chelsea and Piper continue to beat down on B-Fab, but out comes Michin to make the save with the kendo stick, and Piper and Chelsea get out of there pretty quick. So a short and sweet match, but great to see B-Fab get some TV time. She has some moves for sure. Great to see so much of the women on this show, and that's a definite benefit of this new 3-hour format. Good to see that Michin and Chelsea are clearly not finished with their programme. I think Michin maybe might get her payoff at some point, maybe with a title match, and that might even be a Mania match as we continue to build to it, but not really directly. Either way, good stuff, and really nice to see the new women's title on SmackDown being pushed. We then get a reminder of the Tiffy cash-in from a couple of weeks back. And then we get the opposite interview with Byron, this time talking to Tiffany. Byron says that she made history, but not it's getting real as she faces Bayley tonight. Tiffany says she heard Bayley, and she's right. She had a year of moments last year, but unlike Bayley, she doesn't need to recreate them as she's making them. And right now, it's Tiffy time. So again, another short but decent interview with some of tonight's competitors. And then we go to the men's match, which I'm quite surprised. I did think that because the Rey Mysterio is the hometown hero, this might main event. I'm glad it's not, because title match should always get top of the card if possible. So we've got the men's match, which is between obviously Rey Mysterio and KO. Obviously, Rey gets a massive pop as the hometown hero, and KO, it has to be said, gets the equal and opposite reaction. As we start this match, KO hands over the title that he doesn't actually own or have any right to over to the official. And I thought to myself, I wonder why they don't just whisk it away from KO there and then and get the job done. Like, he's handing it over like they do at the beginning of a title match, but he's handing it over to a WWE official. Just take it. Anyway, so we've got KO with a strong start to the match, using his power, but Rey using some awesome moves of his own to get a small hold on the match, but KO powers back, knocking Rey out the ring. They tie up, and Rey goes for a sneaky cover. KO counters, and Rey lands a rolling, counters Rey, and lands a rolling senton. Rey goes face first into the corner, and is countered again by KO getting chucked out of the ring. And at this point, KO is all over Rey. Rey manages to fight back, sending KO into the barricade, follows up with a slide under the ropes, landing right on top of KO. We've got Rey in charge now and has KO in the corner, but again KO fights back and lays Rey out on the outside, following up with a senton off the apron onto the outside, which looked pretty painful. KO, with some top hole heeliness, celebrates with Victoria, one of the women's era Hall of Famers, I guess. He tries to celebrate with her ringside, but she's having none of it. And then he continues to beat Rey down in front of his family. KO still firmly in charge here and mocking the crowd. Rey manages to start to fight back, going up top and hitting KO. Follows up with a wheelbarrow and gets a 2 count. Rey sets up KO for 619. but KO is up and delivers a kick to the face. Ray plants KO with a DDT and KO kicks out. Ray has KO on the top, but he fights back as KO hits a bullfrog splash on Ray, who kicks out again. Ray then hits Code Red and into the cover, but KO kicks and then hits the stunner. Ray sold that stunner like an absolute trooper. He literally flew halfway across the ring. KO finally gets set up for the 619, which Ray hits and goes up top, but there's some kind of weird botch involving the referee. KO hits the pop-up powerbomb, and then from really nowhere, KO gets the win. And I have to say, blimey, I did not see that result coming. I thought this was nailed on result for Ray, who would get the win in his hometown for sure. It was a good match. I think it's always quite fun to hear the live crowd get so annoyed. At the end, it looks like KO is going to be a gent and shake hands, but instead he looks like he's setting Ray up for the pile driver. But before he can, obviously out comes Cody, who attacks him on sight as he said he would, and breaks it up. And they start to brawl again, and there must be every ref and official out at ringside trying to break it up. More fun build to this story. But I have to say again, KO handed over the title that isn't his, and he didn't win at the beginning of this match. And then they handed it back to him at the end of the match. Now, I get that the ladder match features it, but wouldn't it be a better story if KO didn't bring it to the ring when he has a match for fear of WWE officials taking it back off him? Just a thought. So we get backstage with Cody and Nick, who tells Cody that the contract addendum will be signed at Saturday night's main event, with Shawn Michaels overseeing. We also get Fatu versus Strowman at main event, which will be awesome, and I will be watching that again for sure. Next up, we have the main event, which is for the women's title, and we have Bayley out to a great reaction. But before that, we have finally a Charlotte Flair return teaser, thank God. All we get is that she's coming back, no date or anything, but that is awesome. At least she's not gone and forgotten. I'm really hoping for a return for her at the Rumble. And also, wouldn't it be fun if we got the man back as well? So we could roll it back and have Charlotte versus the man again. I mean, just love it. But that's great. It was great to see, and it was a great teaser as well. Some of her best moments and just fab. So we now get Tiffany out to a massive pop for her first events. And we get Wade saying that she is one of the best in WWE, and he includes the men's locker room in that. We get great intros from Lillian Garcia live in the ring. Absolutely loving her work. And we're off. We've got dueling chants for the women. Some great back and forth in the early stages. Wade laying it on super thick. Saying how Bayley has travelled and fought on all 3 shows this week, and sort of insinuating that she might be burnt out. Bayley goes for a quick cover, but just for a 1 count, and we've got Bayley early doors working on Tiffany's arm, keeping the upper hand with a couple of quick covers, and we've got Bayley all over Tiffy at the moment. Finally, Tiffy gets some teeth and starts to kick the hell out of Bayley. Tiffy flinging Bayley hard into the corner and goes for the cover. The crowd are pretty quiet right now. I wonder if that's because this is basically 3 hours in, pretty much. And they're probably tired. Like sometimes you get the peaks and the troughs with the WrestleMania crowd, especially the old ones that used to last, 24 hours. So Bayley hangs Tiffy up on the ropes and has her on the outside. To hit a baseball slide. She goes for it again, but this time Tiffy has it scouted as she turns the tables on Bayley again on the outside. Back in the ring, Tiffy stays on top, working this time on Bayley's arm. Goes to the outside, but Bayley manages to intercept her, delivering the message on the apron, which looked cool. Back in the ring, Tiffy with the clothesline and a big right hand from Tiffy. She continues to beat down Bayley using the apron and outside of the ring to help her. Bayley manages somehow to hit Bayley's belly on the outside, and both women are down. Bayley hits a couple of big clotheslines and a back suplex on Tiffy. She goes for the cover and almost gets it, and another close one following double knees in the corner. Tiffy is now up top, but intercepted by Bayley, who sets Tiffy up and hits a suplex off the top. Tiffy hits Tiffy Time Flies and gets a close 2 count on Bayley. And Bayley does some damage on the outside using the new reinforced announce desk that we keep hearing so much about. We get an elbow drop from Bayley, but Tiffy kicks. And finally, we get Tiffy hitting her Cartwheel Alabama slam, which she had tried 2 or 3 times throughout the match. She follows that up with her prettiest moonsault, and she retains the title. Oh, this was an awesome match to wrap up the show tonight. Bayley and Tiffy smashed it. The action was amazing. And I thought so great to see the women being given the time they were over all their matches and segments and interviews, etc. tonight. All in all, another good show. I won't lie, I did feel the extra hour a bit more tonight, but not enough to bother me. Loving the continued KO build and the developments with Solo stropping off out of the arena, and Jacob Fatu speaking. Again, only catching every other word, but I can get where we're going. So absolutely loving what they're doing at the moment. Some really exciting stories. And as I said, looks like we're going to get Charlotte coming back soon as well. And if she comes back to SmackDown, that will be freaking awesome. So guys, I think all in all, a good week for the WWE once again. So that just about does it for this week's show. Thank you very much, as always, for having me in your ears. And until next time, remember, be kind.
We are 01 USA, an independent wrestling company based in Central Illinois. Would you like to consider supporting our training school by purchasing a $5 tier on our Patreon and receive full access of videotapings of our weekly Thursday night show in Edgewood, Illinois, showcasing 01 USA talent and trainees from our own dojo and others who have been working very hard to prove themselves? Shows date back to January 5th, 2023. That's over 100 shows for $5. These athletes are trying to prove they have what it takes to climb the indie rankings. We have talent leveling from vets with over 18 years experience to young wrestlers getting their first matches in front of a crowd. We would love your support and believe if you appreciate independent wrestling at all, you will enjoy our product. You can check them out at patreon.com/01USA. That's patreon.com/ZERO, then the number 1, USA. Check them out today.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.